I've spent some more time digging through my training log, training journal, whatever you want to call it. I did some more digging, flicking through the pages, specifically around the period when I hit that deadlift PR of 265 kilos. And I found something. I found something which I think is very significant to my struggles at the moment. Nearly 3 months in a row, I spent training at home. That day that I went to the gym and I hit 265 on the deadlift was my first time in the gym for about 3 months. To be exact, it was 85 days that I spent away from the gym. All of those days I spent training at home. Now, it wasn't my choice. COVID-19 went crazy where I live here in Adelaide, Australia. Lots of lockdowns. The gym was locked down. Corona cases blowing up everywhere. Busy at work, busy everywhere. So a multitude of things contributed to me not going to the gym. But basically, it was 85 days that I didn't see the gym. All of my training was done at home. And then the very first day that I go to the gym, I hit a deadlift PR. Now, that day was special for another reason. My best friend welcomed his second son to the world. So the little guy was born on the same day that I went to that gym. So I was in very good spirits. I was feeling myself very, very happy. Back at the gym for the first time in 85 days, the weights felt light as hell. And you guys, when I'm deadlifting, but the biggest battle for me, in fact, the whole battle for me is those first few centimeters off the floor. I struggle off the floor. So why did this come around? Well, I think the significance of me training at home is massive. And I think it boils down to the bar that I'm using. I train with the Ohio Power Bar at home. It is as stiff as hell, man. It is stiff, very, very little whip. So I spent 85 days in a row of deadlifting with that sucker. I go to the gym and I'm handling those bars, which are very whippy. I don't know if they're deadlift bars. I don't even know what bar there are, but there's no center knurling, which leads me to believe that it could be a freaking deadlift bar. And so I go from a stiff bar as somebody that struggles off the floor to a whippy bar, and I'm just basically borrowing real estate with that whippy bar, man. All of a sudden, I'm pulling the higher weights off the floor because I'm going. The further I travel that bar up the range of motion, the happier I get. So even that whatever centimeter that I get from the whip, whatever the hell it is, means a lot, especially to the feel of the deadlift. When the bar starts bending and you're kind of easing yourself into that pull, it's easy, man. The hardest thing about, I guess, I don't know, I'm not a physicist, but the hardest things about physics is breaking inertia, breaking friction, coefficient of friction, whatever. All these terms are kind of popping in my head right now from back in the day of studying this stuff. But breaking inertia is the hardest thing. So once you break that bar off the floor, technically speaking, there is momentum to it. There is, you've broken the hardest bit. Now you got to keep it moving. That's the hardest thing for me. And so going from a stiff bar to a whippy bar, it was like a freaking holiday, man. I remember, I think it was 3 or 4 days before going to the gym, I did a 230 kilo deadlift at home. And that thing was a mongrel, man. Like, I was like, damn, like, that's heavy as hell. Then I go to the gym, man, 240s popping off the floor like nobody's business. I'm like, wow, man, it's like, are these weights the same? Or like, what's going on? I've kind of worked out that, it's the bar, man. And now, like, with all these people setting world records with these whippy-ass bars, man, like, they're like noodles, man, like bending like a noodle. They get into a sumo, They get these whippy bars and the real weight starts leaving off the floor about the same level as the knees, right? Like, it's crazy stuff, right? Whereas, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's got different leverages, but I feel as though it's the hardest thing to get stuff off the floor. Even if you're fast off the floor, when you're going up with the heavy ass weight, man, like, I don't know. I guess either you are struggling at the lockout or struggling at the bottom. There's differences there. There's, forceful, back rounding. Like, I've heard people talk about if you, just allow yourself to round your back, you're going to be quicker off the floor. However, that quickness is going to be paid tenfold when it comes to the lockout because, straightening that back to the lockout is going to be very, very difficult because you're going to be out of position. So it's kind of like I remember Pete Rubish talking about this. You know, he used to freaking rip that thing off the ground like nobody's business. But then over the years, he's kind of changed his tune about that because he was struggling with the lockout. And so what he says now is that don't round your back, you know, stay in your form, because that, you know, rigidity, that form is going to help you, you know, lock out. Regardless, you know, for me, I think I found something very significant. And today I decided to take that idea and you know, times it by 10. So I'm struggling off the floor. Stiff bar work, even though I'm using a lot less weight, makes me stronger when I go to the whippy bar, because I'm practicing that break off the floor with the stiff bar. I'm having to fight really, really hard with the stiff bar. So today I thought, why don't I take that same stiff bar and do a little bit of a deficit? Now I've got all these blocks that I kind of self-made, you know, chopped them up, whatever. I took one slide of that block package that I made, whatever. And so one block, well, that block that I'm using right now is, I think, 4 centimeters or 1.5 inch. I remember I worked it out. So it's around 4 centimeters. So I did that. I used the stiff bar, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I just work with this, maybe I'm gonna basically address that sticking point from the ground. Now, when you talk to people, everyone's got a different opinion. Why do people struggle off the floor? Of course, there are leverages and whatever, but a lot of people say to do deficit pulls. Some people say do rack pulls. So there's a bit of a discussion in the community what's best for off the floor strength. I know a lot of you guys over the years here have been telling me, if you're struggling off the floor, you gotta work deficits. You gotta work deficits. And I remember not too long ago I did work with deficits, and I started getting really upset hip flexors, and I moved away from that. I wish I didn't, and I stayed and tried to work out why the hip flexors were getting pissed off. But I think I was using way too much of a deficit. I was using 2 blocks, so like 8 centimeters, 9 centimeters, whatever the thing was. So that's a lot. You know, basically you are completely bent over, and maybe the hip flexors are too contracted to pull from that position. I think what I'm doing here with it's basically the thickness of a plate, really. You know, that block that I have, about inch and a half, something like that, is really good. So if I'm training at home, I reckon an inch and a half is really good deficit. If I go to the gym and I use that whippy bar, maybe I should take, I don't know, another plate. So if I'm going to use plates over there, they don't have blocks. Maybe I'll do like 2 plates. I don't know if I can make that work over there at the gym. I don't know what I'll use, but if I do that, maybe that will negate, or that will remove some of that whippy bar benefit that I'm kind of getting from it, and inherently not training the most difficult portion for me. So I thought that was interesting. 85 days in a row I spent training at home, rock up to the gym first time, and I freaking pulled 265, and it was a freaking joke. Because I got used to the stiff bar, breaking that sucker off the floor. So when you go from a stiff bar to a whippy bar, you're like, my Lord, I feel like a maniac right now, man. It's feeling so damn good. So this is something that I'm thinking about right now. I think there's something to it. I don't know what you guys reckon. Once again, it depends. A lot of us are going to have different experiences because of leverages. So I don't know. A lot of people say, yes, deficits definitely help me off the ground. Some people say they just completely ruined my positioning and made it even worse, confused my body, blah, blah, blah. So it depends. I think it's worth a try. Now I'm kind of, with this information, with this little connection that I've made through the training log, I'm like, man, it's worth trying, man. It's worth experimenting this idea. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I did it today. Now, today is a half-assed day. I'm going to a night shift. So I'm being mindful of what I'm doing, how much I'm doing. I'll try and get some sleep before I head off to the night shift, but I don't want to really go crazy. I really wanted to go crazy with the deficits today. I really wanted to like keep on doing sets. I worked up to a set of 200. That kind of felt all right. A whole lot of lower back action, man. I can tell you that. I was feeling my lower back. It just basically puts more emphasis on the lower back. That's how I look at it. Now you can cheat the deficit by trying to squat the bar. I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to kind of keep the somewhat same knee angle. It's probably not, but you know, if you really kind of shove your knees over the bar, and you kind of just squat it, I don't know if you're, you know, taking the benefit of the exercise there. So I'm trying to, you know, lean over more so than, you know, knees forward. That's what I'm trying to kind of emphasize doing this. And doing that, I'm feeling a lower back. And, you know, every time I feel my lower back in this way, it feels good. It feels like the 45 hyper. And I like that feeling. It feels like that's the stuff that's going to make you strong, man. Like, you know, lower back. You know, the stronger that thing is, the stronger everything goes. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And then obviously you guys also saw Cossack squats. I did 10 sets to 10 body weight before the video started. And you guys saw me messing around with the bar as well. So that's a 20 kilo Cossack squat. I did some last night as well after work. I'm kind of doing them every chance I get. It's so good for the freaking hips, man. I can't explain, you know, the feeling. Unless you try, you won't know. Basically, the hip pain that I had a couple of days ago is gone. Like, there's nothing there. Like, the Cossack squats are just awesome. And I reckon it's all because the adductors on me are pissed off. It makes sense. I'll do a lot of squatting. So anyway, I got Cossack squats in my mind. I've got deficit deadlifts in my mind. I think it was a great find that I did today in the journal. I mean, that's significant. 85 days with the stiff bar. First time I go to the gym, use a whippy bar and bam, 265 flies up. And I've watched that 265 deadlift several times. If not like 30, 40, 50 times. And I'm like studying and I'm like, man, he went off the floor so good. Why did he go off the floor so good? Damn stiff bar, man. You practice with the stiff bar. Or just freaking deficits. I've got somebody to mention in this video as well. A fella by the name of Vince. He's the latest name on the Patreon list. Vince, man, really appreciate you for doing this. There's a whole army with us right now, man. This community is growing. All of you guys are supporting me to do this thing, to continue kind of speak my mind about all this stuff that I'm finding as I'm going along in the journey. And I'm loving it, man. You guys are blessing me for both ends. On the Patreon list, the support in the comments, the brainstorming that we go through in the comments. Freaking amazing. It's one of the best things I've ever done, man, to like jump on here and just share my journey, because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have you guys. I wouldn't have the community. So thank you, Vince. Thank you, everyone else in the Patreon list. Everyone else in the comments and the DMs and Instagram, and also messages there as well. Guys, let me get out of here, get some food in me, shower, sleep, and then head into a night shift. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.